Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Cohen. You can call me Dr. E, and I'm going to be your instructor for this class, COMM 270, which is kind of called two things at the moment. It's effective public speaking, but it's also presentational speaking. It's sort of in a transitionary period right now. So sometimes I'll refer to it as presentational speaking, which is going to be its sort of future name. And if you registered for a class called effective public speaking, it's the same thing. So don't worry about that. This is going to be a video where I walk you through the syllabus just like if it was syllabus day and you were in class with me and I'm like, here's what the class is all about and here's what we're going to do and here's a piece of paper. You're not going to get the piece of paper. And then there's also going to be just a really, really short lecture, if you will. Really, it's sort of guidelines about thinking about topics that you might want to speak about over the semester. And that's pretty much it. The reason that I'd like to do this, I've been doing this for a few years, not just in this class, but large lecture classes, small discussion classes. All of my classes I've started to have the first class online. And the reason is because I get really annoyed by having to repeat all of the interesting things that I say on the first day for people who maybe add the class later and then show up on the second day and are like, what did I miss? And this is also a way where even if you show up on the first day, you can always go back and remind yourself what I said because it will be a video that's on eCampus for perpetuity, right? So this is really just to make it sort of like even the playing field for anybody, regardless of when they add the class, and make it so that you can review some of the information that I cover. So let me go ahead. I'm going to go and share my screen. This is your syllabus. You can find this on eCampus if you want to follow along and look ahead or however you want to do it. Or if you just want to kind of scroll with me, that's fine. I'm not going to cover everything. I'm just going to kind of hit the things that I think are really important that I want to just really make sure are as clear as possible. So first of all, let me just let you know that this is a class that has not just one instructor, but kind of two instructors or a few, depending on how you're looking at it. So this is kind of like maybe some other natural science courses that you've taken where there's a lecture component to it and then there's a lab component. So what's going to happen is every Monday, I'm going to give some sort of lecture on whatever various topics that are related to public speaking. But then you're actually going to work on some of the things that we talk about in lecture in breakout labs. And that's also where you're going to give different public speeches that you're going to be required to give. So you're not going to do anything in the context of this larger class where everybody meets. What's going to happen is there's going to be breakout sessions. And actually, I'm recording this a week before school starts, and I do not, well, I don't know for sure who the lab instructors are going to be. They're going to be some of the wonderful PhD students in our department, but I'm not sure which ones yet. So that's why this is still blank here. But by the time you open it up, you'll know who your instructor is going to be. And they'll show up on the first night of lecture too, so I can give you an introduction. This lecture is going to be in Ming Shea Hall, but then the breakout lectures, again, I'm not sure which I'm not, depending on the section that you registered for, you'll go into a different room, of course, with your own instructor. And that's going to be in Ogle Bay, which is, if you know anything about this, it's like kind of connected to Ming Shea. They're like together, but it's on different nights. So again, just know that you kind of registered, when you registered for this one class, you registered for two different subsections. One is with me, and then you have the breakout labs, which is going to be in a different room and stuff, and that's going to happen on Wednesday. My thing about office hours, so I was gonna put here on the Lisa Simpson meme, I need something for her to be lecturing about, but I haven't decided yet. I'm trying not to be too snarky, but it's really hard for me. I really don't like the concept of office hours anymore. Oh, I'm sorry. My animals can be loud. Shh. I don't like the concept of office hours anymore because it seems very antiquated to me. It seems like it's from a time when you couldn't get in touch with your professors unless you just like popped in their office at some random time when they said they would be around. And maybe that's still relevant for some professors, but it's not for me. I'm actually really easy to get a hold of if you email me. And I try to be as flexible as I can be with making appointments for people if you just give me enough notice. So Not everybody can show up to my office hours, which are going to be on Monday and Wednesdays at 1 to 2:30. But if you want to meet with me, just ask and we can set up a time. Like I'm sure we can figure out something, and it doesn't even have to be on campus. I'm happy to do Zoom hours or whatever, talk to you on the phone, whatever. We can figure something out. And um, on that note, the other issue with office hours that I have is sort of like, in theory, even though I admit a lot of people don't come to my office hours, in theory, if people did come to my office hours and they all showed up at the same time, it would just be a waste of time because you wouldn't know when somebody's coming. So even if you plan on coming to my office hours, I really recommend you give me a heads up. So that way I can, if somebody else tells me they're coming, I can say, hey, why don't you come at this time instead of that time or whatever. So appointments, 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 but that's not because I'm trying to push you away. It's quite the opposite. Um, and I really am sorry that all the noises here. I have two pugs here. We can do a little introduction. This is this is one of the pugs. This is Fergus. He's in his bed, but you can tell he's like too lazy to get up, but he's not too lazy to bark. And then this is, hold on. This is the baby. This is Bluma. We call her Blue, and she's really sweet. And she's chewing a bone, which is why it's so noisy. Later, when we teach you how to do online presentations, I'm probably going to say something like, hey, you probably shouldn't have animals in the room with you when you do these presentations. And that's true, but I'm not being graded, so I break all the rules. Okay, so you could read the course description for yourself, but this is, as I think you know, a course about public speaking. It's not this is not your grandfather's public speaking course, though. We've really tried hard to develop a course that is going to be really practical for the type of presentations that you will at some point probably be asked to do, no matter what sort of classes you take or what sort of profession you choose to go into. I mean, maybe not all of them, but we really tried to put a variety of different presentational formats in here that we hope will be helpful to you. And I'll go over those when we get to the assignments. And there's lots of different course objectives, lots of skills you're going to learn. But the stuff that I think I have a feeling that you really care about, do you have to spend any money in this course? Actually, no. We've adopted a book that is open source, which is just a fancy word for free. This book is available online. You can click on it here. If you want, you can print it on something if you prefer to read something hard copy. But yeah, you can just access the textbook online. So there's no need to buy any books for this class. I have, don't be scared. I have all of these books here as sort of like recommended sources. And the reason I put these here as opposed to other ones is just because I actually have I have chapters that I've pulled that have informed some of the lectures I'm going to be giving from these books. So if you want to read more on any of these topics, I would encourage you to get the whole book. But otherwise, I'll be providing those readings for you. You can find any readings that aren't in this book. You can find them on eCampus. So I'll be posting them there as PDFs. And okay, I'm just going to hold her because she's kind of driving me crazy. There we go. So Blue's back. She's just going to be my little Vanna White here. Okay. So the only thing, and I don't think that you should, I really don't think you're going to have to pay for anything, but I do want to make it clear that later in the semester, about midway through, we're going to start doing speeches that are computer mediated, that are on your computer. So I'm going to have you do a Zoom speech where you have to sort of deliver a visual aid, and we're all going to watch on Zoom. We're actually going to be meeting remote. So that's a really important thing you want to have in mind and put in your calendar, because that week you're going to need to make arrangements to attend class from a remote location, but it needs to be a quiet location or, where you could give a presentation if you needed to online. And we can talk more about different ways to do that, but I want you to start to think about that. And you also are going to need, for, of course, Zoom, but later we're also going to have you do an asynchronous presentation, which is basically just means pre-recorded. So just like I'm pre-recording this video, you're also going to pre-record your own video, which means that you're going to need to have access to some sort of video camera. It could be a web camera on your computer, or it could be your a camera on your smartphone. But if you don't have access to something like that, you can rent something out in the library. They have a lot of equipment there. Again, that's all free, but I want you to have it on your radar in case this is something that you're going to want to be looking into. You might need to reserve something, for instance. Um, yeah, she really thinks she likes tea, even though she's never had it. I don't get it. She likes coffee too. Again, I do not let her have it, but it's just bizarre that she likes the smell. I've never had a dog that does that before. Um, okay, so now drum roll. Here is how the course grade that you're going to get is going to be made up. And I'm going to just kind of scroll down here really fast so you can kind of get a bigger picture of this. These are all these different assignments, and you'll see that I have kind of different percentages of the total grade so that you can kind of see how much things are worth. And one of the reasons I think that's really important for this class is because we've tried to develop a class where we understand that not everybody is really comfortable giving presentations. Public speaking can be frightening for some people. In fact, most people. We're going to talk a lot about that on the first lecture. Like public speaking fear is quite ubiquitous, and all of us including me, experience it. But we do all experience it to different degrees, and it depends on, our makeup and our experience and all that stuff. And we don't want anybody to feel like they can't take this class because they're going to be scared about how it's going to affect their grade or anything like that. We can't eliminate all of the different the sources of anxiety for you, although we're going to, try to give you some tips to help with that. But we do want to minimize the things that, uh, anything that we can control that you would be worrying about that we can minimize, we want to try to do that. So we've worked hard to make it so most of your points in this class don't actually come from speeches. You can see here speeches account for almost 50% of your grade, but there's 5 speeches. So each speech themselves, they only account for a small portion of your grade. So you can see here, even the speech that is like the accounts for the most points is only 15% of your grade. Which I don't mean to minimize it, it's substantial, but your grades spread out over a lot of things. But here's another thing. And this is not, it's not something that I really spell out in the syllabus, but if you go and you can look up all of your speech assignments if you want to kind of see what we're going to be doing on eCampus, and you can also look at the rubrics that we use to grade them. And the way we have it set up is like everybody will get an automatic A for all of the points they could get for the delivery of their speech, so long as you basically follow instructions. So long as you go through with the speech, you do it when you're supposed to do it according to the deadline, and you follow all the instructions, even if your delivery is a little bit off the mark, because maybe you're nervous or something, you can still get an automatic A for those points. The only thing that you're going to get a grade for is the stuff that you can prepare ahead of time. Again, all of these things we're trying to bake into the syllabus to make this an environment where even if it's not exactly comfortable, you don't have to stress about the things that we don't want you to stress about. Okay. We want you to stress about getting better and maybe even, entertaining your audience and things like that. Like those are appropriate things, but we don't want you to get too nervous about things that are going to like take away from your ability to like pick up some of these skills. So that's why we have it set up like that. So we have all of these things here, anything that ends with presentation, but also a question and answer session and a video presentation, like I mentioned before. These are all the presentations, but then these things, listening and processing activities, and actually it's funny because I was like, I should have probably spelled A because I call them laps. Like, isn't it fun when like the things that you invent like actually spell like a word with the acronym? So these lap activities or whatever. Basically, this is just stuff that makes you that encourages you to come to class and gives you points for showing up and listening. Okay. Sometimes they'll be a little bit more workshoppy where maybe you have to like communicate with somebody in class and write down what you're thinking or something like that. A lot of times it's going to be sort of following along in my lecture. And then there'll be questions where when I say something in my lecture, you have to write it down. It's not supposed to be overly difficult. These listening and processing activities are really kind of what you can consider attendance activities, except you can get the questions wrong. But if you're paying attention, it's not going to be, um, if you're paying attention, you should be able to get most of the questions right. So you should be able to get most of these points. But one thing I want to point out, it says here you have to do 10 of them and they're worth 15 points each, okay? I'm going to skip all the way ahead now. This is our schedule for the semester that you can see. Like, this is all the stuff that we cover. Over here are readings that go with the lectures if you want to read them ahead of time. I'm not going to be quizzing you on the readings. If you don't do the readings before you come to class, I'll never know the difference. This is more like, okay, if I said something in class and you didn't understand it and you want to get some more information, you can go in your textbook and find it that way. And then you can see here, this is a schedule for the presentations. Okay, but the reason I wanted to come here is to show you that for every one of these lectures, I will probably be able to give some sort of lap activity, right? So again, think of it like an attendance activity. And actually, some of your breakout labs, if you don't have a presentation assigned, you'll be doing activities in those breakout labs too on Wednesdays, okay? There are we are going to give you way more than 10 activities, which means that if you end up missing, let's say like you don't come to the lecture on visual aids, okay? We're going to cover a lot. I highly recommend you come. But let's say you don't come to that lecture on visual aids and you don't get to do one of the listening and processing activities, so you get a 0 on it. Well, that might not hurt your grade because I'm only going to count the top 10 grades on those listening and processing activities. So if by the end of the semester you've done 12 or 13, I'm going to drop your 2 lowest or 3 lowest grades and only count 10 of them. So in this way, you're allowed to miss some class without it penalizing you. I think I say I guarantee, let me see what I put here, because I did the math. I'm sorry, I can't remember. It's just, there's a lot of information here. Attendance policy, this is all related. Boop, boop, boop. Where is it? I'm sorry. It's all ahead. So if you look up here, okay, I'm gonna count 10 and I promise that I'll give you at least 14 opportunities, which means that there are at least 4 classes that you can miss and there's no reason to think there would be any penalty. You can still earn the maximum LPA grade that you can. That said, you know, you want to kind of save these if you look at this as a freebie, right? You never know when you're going to get sick or something crazy is going to happen. If it was me, and that's like a hint, like you should want to be me, I would highly recommend that, listen, you might already have some days that you're not going to be able to make, come to class or something, but make sure you save a couple too in case something comes up. Okay, back to attendance. So that's all true for the lecture. But there is something where attendance is mandatory, and that is on these speech days. So anytime you see that we're going to be giving presentations, okay, it's in purple here. Purple, purple, presentation part 1, 2, 3. This is when you're going to be in your breakout labs and you might be giving a presentation, but even if you're not giving a presentation, we need an audience for the other people to give presentations. So attendance is mandatory on those days. If you need to miss class for any reason, it better be like an emergency or something, and then you're going to have to present that evidence and documentation. And then the way makeup's, like if you can't do a speech because you have a legitimate excused absence, and I have links in the syllabus about what constitutes that. We're kind of going by the university's definition on that. We can allow you to make it up, but we can't tell you when you're going to be able to make it up. It depends on when there's time. So what will happen is if you miss a speech for an excused absence, let's say here on October 8th, then if we can squeeze you in on the 15th, we will. But if we can't, then the next time would be the 22nd, and on and on and on until we actually find time. So you'd have to make sure that you're able to attend after. And it's really just kind of all we can do because these speeches are various links and stuff like that. So again, just to reiterate, because I know this is kind of confusing, but it's also very simple if we break it down. Attendance is not required. Oh, no, no, no. He gets so excited with attendance policy stuff. He's like, yeah, he's like a little manager. Fergus, do you need to be held now? If I just rotate them enough, like here. Oh, but he's like so much more chunky. Okay. So if attendance is not technically required on lecture days, however, you need to make sure you come enough to get at least 10 activity points. Okay. However, attendance is mandatory. It is required on any speech day. So, as you're even considering, keeping this class in your schedule or not, make sure that you can attend on these presentation days. If you end up missing without an excused absence, then you get an automatic 20% deduction on your speech or in your presentation grade. Because again, that's instructions, that's not delivery for every day that you've missed. So that's sort of the penalty. And again, I really, if you've had me in class before, I think some of you have been in my film class before, and I like loathe attendance stuff. Like, I'm just like, I'm not a secretary and I'm not your mom and I'm not trying to keep up with all this stuff. But this is really about fairness to other people and making sure that, again, on presentation days, everybody has the same experience of an audience. To kind of keep that standard. But that also just like brings up one other point. If you're gonna miss a lecture day because like, I don't know, the weather's nice and you'd rather go on a picnic, don't tell me. I don't need to know. Like if it's not a day where like attendance is mandatory, like you do you. I don't need to know about it. You know what I mean? Like only worry about those mandatory days. So, um, one quick little note about all of these grading things. I will be putting your lab instructor is going to be putting your presentation grades in, but they're probably going to wait until all the presentations for that segment are done. And then I'll put the LPA grades in within a week. But just know that eCampus doesn't understand like this whole I'm going to drop stuff at the end and everything. So you got to be really careful. Remember, eCampus can't really calculate your grade because eCampus doesn't understand all of the logistics about stuff like this. Okay. So just be cautious about that. Um, so those are the big things that I wanted to just explain to you about the structure of the course. There's obviously a lot more interesting things about, things that we're going to be doing this a semester, but I think you can read it all on your own. The stuff that I would recommend you really looking into is what's going to be happening with these different speeches. There's just too much detail to kind of go into them now. Of course, we'll be talking about them in class. But I will just kind of to give you an idea of how it's going to go. These first two presentations are going to be in person. This presentation in the middle is actually going to be on Zoom. So that's when we're going to be spending those weeks remote. This question and answer session is going to be in person. And this video presentation is going to be something you do on your own time. And then there's going to be like a due date where you're going to upload your video to YouTube and then send a link to everybody so we can see it that way. So that's not even going to be a live speech. And then finally, just because I was talking about this, I just want to make it clear that these days, you can see I have it here in blue. So starting on October 8th, October 15th, October 22nd. Those are the days that we're not going to be meeting in class. You're not going to go to your breakout labs. What's going to happen is you need to log into a computer somewhere and be able to attend presentations and listen to presentations on Zoom. So again, I'm just pointing that out right now so you can get that in your calendar. But okay, so that's what we're doing this semester. I'm very hopeful that it's going to be a really fun time. Again, I'm not minimizing all of the nerves that I know you feel. I remember my own college public speaking classes. I had several actually. And there was always sort of like that weird buzz, but I really had the benefit of having a really warm and accepting class environment. And that's what I really want to like make for us so that everybody feels really good and we can really support each other through this. And you're going to feel really good at the end of the semester when you come out and you've had all of this like really amazing experience putting together your presentations. So now, moving to kind of like a little bit, I mean, this is going to give you a taste for what my lectures are like, but it's going to be quicker, I promise. I want to, I'm going to share, let's see, oops, big spoiler. I got to start from the beginning. Um, so what we're going to do right now is I just want to talk a little bit about sort of the type of general speeches that you're going to be doing in this class because you need to start thinking about a topic. The topic that you choose is going to carry you through all of the presentations you do in this class. So your presentations might be slightly different, but all of them are going to kind of have the same general topic thread underneath them. So what I want to do right now is sort of kind of give you an idea of how you can start choosing the topic that you might want to focus on for all of your presentations. The first thing you need to know is that the speeches in this class are all going to be informative. So there's going to be there's all sorts of types of speaking. There's ceremonial speeches, like if you give toasts at weddings. There's persuasive speeches if, I don't know, like you're running for president. I mean, there's actually lots of context for persuasion. But this is going to be a very sort of specific type of communication goal you're going to be dealing with. The whole time you're going to be trying to just tell people about something. The Lisa Simpson meme here really, I think, hits the nail on the head, right? Really, this is teaching, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean lecturing. It just means that your goal is going to be to tell your audience, who is going to be me, your instructors, your classmates, just help them understand something, okay? Make them aware of something that maybe they didn't know before. So again, all the speeches are going to have something to do with informing. Sharing information is another way of looking at this. The things you do want to kind of avoid, although this doesn't mean that you're not going to be making arguments and that there aren't going to be little points where you want to convince people of some things, but really the convincing is more just for the sake, like for instance, you might tell people about two sides of an issue. You might say like, my goal here is to tell you about like the two arguments for the two different perspectives on entering World War II, if you're like a history buff or something like that. And in doing so, you wouldn't necessarily be saying what you believe or what you think other people should believe, right? You would just be explaining the two perspectives. So it's not about taking sides. You might be at some point explaining different sides, but you yourself are not taking a side. And you're not really trying to motivate people to do anything either. This isn't about advocacy. This isn't going to be about trying to convince people to agree with you or to convince people that this person's stupid or that, those types of things. It is really just to share information to inform. I happen to really like motivational speakers, but I also like making fun of them. So that's what those memes are about. Your textbook does a nice job of outlining different types of informative presentations. These are, I have them here not because I'm going to make you again, the way you approach this topic, you might use a couple of these different strategies throughout the semester. So you don't have to nail this through. The reason I wanted to sort of hit this at the beginning, though, is so that it helps you sort of brainstorm about different topics that might be fun for you to talk to people about. You might just want to explain to somebody what something is. You might think that there's something that maybe, you're pretty sure that people in the class really don't understand what black holes are. Like, yeah, you've heard of black holes, but do you know what a black hole is? Like, what is that, right? Or maybe you want to describe a black hole where it's not just like I want to explain what it is, but like I want to give you a sensory experience about what it's like to fall into a black hole. Probably not drawing from personal experience or whatever, or maybe you want to explain how something works or to actually demonstrate something, to actually walk people through how to cook this or, something like that. Again, these are all like sort of things that happen when you're teaching, right? Like that's what instructors do. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. Here's some cute examples of like, well, if you think this is a cute topic, oh, now I feel bad if like somebody wants to talk about 3D printing. Do it. I don't think it's boring. Uh, No, actually, we're going to talk about that. I truly believe that any topic can be interesting. I know I'm like kind of a geeky professor type, but like really, even if you think that something is like too boring, then don't worry about it. We'll fix that. Like all you have to do is sort of like think about how to make it interesting for your audience. And I believe you can. So that I didn't mean to diss 3D printing, but you can see here all the different ways that the same topic can be addressed in different ways. Hi, buddy. If you don't bark, you can go down. It's the cat's turn to come anyway, although he already left. Um, this is another little I try to do this when I can, where your textbook has these nice little not infographics lists, and I just pop them in here and kind of highlight things that I want to focus on. This was the okay, honey. This was the brainstorming section of chapter 12 in your book, and these are questions that it suggests you going through to think about topics that you might want to talk about for an informative speech. I want to really highlight these first three, though, because the goals of your speech in this class are a little bit more specific than just information about anything. We want this, and by the way, when I say we, it's other people who develop the class and will teach it. So we just sort of, we brought our minds together to create this class. And what we really want for you is to present yourself as an expert in this class. So this question right here, what areas of a particular topic do you have some sort of expertise in, or what topics do you have expertise in? I really want you to focus on that. Your first speech is called I'm an expert speech because you need to declare yourself an expert on something. What do you know about? What's really interesting for you and that you've like accumulated some knowledge on? Again, this question about how useful is it to your audience or maybe how interesting is to it is a really important question. And I am not telling you not to consider it, but I want you to focus on this stuff first. And then once you decide what you think is interesting, we'll keep working on how do we make it interesting to your audience? Because again, I think that's really sort of the skill set here. Um, so yeah, go ahead, start considering your audience, think about the things they know, what they don't know. And actually, I think I'm really sorry. I messed that up. I think this slide was supposed to be first. See, presentation goof. That's why we're not grading you on delivery. Those who can't do teach. What can I tell you? But I want you to think about your audience, but for your next actually for we're going to be asking you in the quiz that you're going to be taking on the syllabus to actually list some topics that you think you're an expert in. And so this is sort of the criteria. And if you want more information on this, you can go and look at the assignment that's on eCampus in the folder where all of the speech assignments are. And it says the same thing as this PowerPoint slide with a few more words. But basically, when I say expert, I do not mean that you actually have to have a PhD in something, or you have to have some sort of training in something, or some sort of credentials. If you do, that's perfectly fine, and that's great, and that will help you establish credibility. This is just more the bare minimum is I want you to pick something that you probably have a little bit more knowledge on than other people in the audience. I want it to be something that you're actually able to give people knowledge about. So that's what we mean by expert. It doesn't actually mean that, you have to pass a test or something like that. Okay. So it could just be a hobby that you're probably a little bit more into than most people in your class, or a skill, or maybe some collection you have, or maybe it's your discipline or area of study. If you are in engineering, maybe there's something that here's the thing. If you're an engineering student and there's another engineering student, don't let that take away from your knowledge. Like again, I said you have to know more than like most people in the class, like probably, okay? I guarantee you know more than me. Um, and probably most other people, right? So think about things. Maybe it's some class that you've had or something like that. No, it should be something that you don't mind, talking about and maybe doing a little bit more research on this semester. You're going to have to spend some time with it. So obviously make sure you are not just an expert, but you're interested in it too. The only kind of guardrails we have on this is we want you to keep it clean, non-controversial, and non-traumatizing. And there's a part of me I want you to know that feels a little bad about this because I don't like holding back any part of the creative process. But when I was thinking about how I want this class to feel, I was like, public speaking can be fraught with all different types of emotions and anxieties and stuff like that. And I want to take away the any concerns that you would have that we can control. So let's say that you're going to go up and give like a controversial speech on, I don't know, like so it's like cliche, but like let's say you wanted to talk about like pro-choice or pro-life, or you wanted to talk about like abortion. Okay, as a like I'm an expert on abortion, which people are experts on abortion, don't get me wrong. Or I'm an expert on life. I don't know, whatever. Could go both ways, right? So that is there's like good speeches to be had from that, but if you do a speech like that, then the fears that you're going to have in terms of talking to your audience are going to be very different than if you give a speech on baseball cards. Like, you know what I mean? Or if you give a speech on, I don't know, like taking care of, gerbils, or like I'm being kind of like silly and far out there, but I'm just trying to nail the point home that if you get to like a political point or a point, if you get to some sort of um, political topic or something that's really fueled with something that could make people feel embarrassed or uncomfortable, if it has too much shock value, um, like I wouldn't recommend doing, even if you are an expert on porn, that's not a good topic for this class because some people would feel very comfortable with it and a lot of people would not. So we want to just kind of stay neutral. And like I said, that's not because I want to censor you at all. It's really because I want you to feel comfortable when you're up there giving the speech, and I want your audience to feel comfortable too. I want this to feel a little bit more like a fun party game when you're giving a speech. I know that's like a huge ask, but I want it to feel closer to a party game than I do some sort of debate class, if that makes any sense. And if not, we'll just keep talking about it. But okay, believe it or not, I'm finally done, but we're finished with our first lecture. Oh, I wasn't timing it, but uh, I know it's been a minute, but it's still quicker than most of the syllabus days that you have in other classes, I bet. So, and hopefully you paused it and went to the bathroom and had breaks and stuff like that. So that's it. The next thing you need to do before we meet for our first in-person class on Monday is you need to complete the syllabus quiz, which is also, it's kind of about your syllabus and the course policies, but also there's some things in there about this little lecture that I gave you as you start generating topics. And because there's a lot of people in this class, I'm not going to be able to give like in-depth detail on your topics. But I will, if there's something where I'm like, oh no, go in a different direction, I'll be able to do that. So assume if you don't get like extensive feedback on your topic that it's pretty good. Okay. But go ahead and take care of that. And you are done with the first week of assignments for this class. And I will see you in person on Monday, August 25th in Ming Shea Hall. Um, I think G21. I'll have to look at the syllabus again. And actually, that reminds me one important thing. There is an assignment. Oh God, I know. She's like, didn't this woman just say that she was done? Yeah. But this is really important, and I'm really sorry. There is going to be an assignment that you have to do at the very beginning of class because it's kind of like a pre-test, post-test type of thing where we give you a survey before we start the content for the semester, and then we give you one at the end. And it's this thing, presentation perception assessment. You got to be in class at the beginning of class in order to do this first one, and then you're going to do it again at the end of the semester. So please do make sure that you're in class just for that, first in-class meeting. But that's it. So I will see you then. And thank you so much for your patience.